What should Nigerians expect from President's second term? Well, Godswill Akpabio has the answers. And another set of Boko Haram hostages plead for their lives. This is Plus Politics, and I am Maryann Okon. Well, former governor and now Senator Godswill Akpabio, ministerial nominee, says he's ready to work with President Muhammadu Buhari to take the country to the next level. The former Akwa Ibom governor gave this assurance in an interview at the sidelines of the ministerial nominees screening at the National Assembly in Abuja yesterday. He stated that the country is currently under siege by security issues and expressed his willingness to assist the president in taking the country to the next level. He stated that Nigerians should expect higher performance, commitment to service and dedication to the country, adding a lot of uncommon representation and uncommon achievements. He would not be Governor Akpabio if he doesn't add that. Now, Mr. Akpabio, however, acknowledged the fact that they might not solve all of Nigeria's problems, but they are determined to minimize the problems. Well, joining me to analyze this, we have Mr. Segun Sopitan. He's of the ACT Network, and he's also a political analyst. It's good to have you join us.
Pleasure to be here.
And of course, we have Mr. Dikbo Olayoku. He's a journalist. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Dikbo. All right. So the uncommon man and his uncommon statements. Apparently, he was screened yesterday. He was one of those who was screened yesterday, which was the first day of the screening. And he had a lot of things to say, but of course, we know the take a bow and leave was, for him. But looking at some of the things that he has said, he's saying with his wealth of experience as former governor and senator and a lawyer, he says he has a lot to offer Nigerians. Now, he's saying this not knowing, maybe he does know where he's going to function, but we do not know what portfolio he's going to be using. So the question is, can he speak for the president?
Yes, because though the Senate president this afternoon said they have just been screened, they have not been confirmed. But it is safe to conclude that barring any unforeseen circumstances, at least they will be confirmed. And he is talking as a member of a cabinet.
In waiting.
So to speak, federal cabinet. And there's, according to the Constitution, there's a provision for regular meeting of the president with his council of ministers, where issues will be debated, discussed, analyzed, and experience will be brought to bear. When you are discussing at the cabinet level, you are not expected to be restricted to your area of primary assignment, like as Minister of Justice, only he will be able to say anything about Ministry of Justice. But beyond that, I don't think anybody will envy any of these potential ministers, because they are coming onto the scene at a very critical stage in the history of our country. A lot of issues are cropping up, things that we have not witnessed in this scale. And they have within the next 4 years, because the president, according to the Constitution of Nigeria, is not entitled to any other tenure after the next 4 years. So they have only 4 years to either write their name in gold, as they always say, or in whatever form. But the point is, one thing I have found about this cabinet, because I've taken time to look at their antecedent, I don't want to say the CV, and some of them have been around for quite some time, and as a journalist, at one time or the other, either directly or indirectly, you will have had contact with them. Maybe something you forgot to add is that Akpabio was also a commissioner at a point.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was. So if you look at where some of these guys are coming from, I don't think they will be found wanting in the area of governance. Because you see, whether you like it or not, governance has to do with experience. And that is why even some of the democracies we are talking about, when they have a very young president, it's usually, the cabinet is usually a blend of the old and the young ones, because you need the old for the experience, you need the young ones for agility. So I think in the area of experience, they should not be found wanting. But the most important thing is Like we always say in football, they have a star-studded team, according to my own understanding. But what matters most is how do you blend these stars? It's just like when you have 11 individual fantastic players on the field of play, but you don't have one entity of you don't have a team, then there's a problem.
Coming to you, Segun, again, he's talked about his wealth of experience as former governor and all of that, and he's saying, I like to quote him, he says, if you look at my record, I don't want people to look at my lips, they should look at my track record, which is very impressive in terms of dedication to qualitative service. Now, if we look back at the past ministers, I think some of them have been reintroduced into this new list of nominees. They were fantastic when they were administrators as governors, but as ministers, they didn't do so great. So, I mean, looking at that antecedent or that which has happened, can we really trust this thing that Akpabio is saying? And just as he has said, they have a great track record, so maybe we should, wait for them to bring good governance to bear.
Well, I mean, I guess we can only be hopeful. To the extent that we're all Nigerians, and we obviously want the best for Nigeria, so we'll be hoping that he's right, and that he's obviously optimistic about his capacity, because he is himself. So, you have to know yourself
he's
first.
An uncommon.
And, I guess we could say, I've been to Akwa Ibom on a couple of occasions, and I know that he did do decently well, by the measures that we use on these shores to measure performance. We would say he was one of the better governors during his tenure. His time as a senator, I'm not so sure. So coming with that track record, one will say he's saying, look at what I've done. So don't worry, we're going to do very well. This cabinet is going to be fantastic because they've got people like me. I wonder, because like you've said, if we look at former Governor Fashola, Rotimi Amechi, who were people that people will generally acknowledge did, decently well enough as governors, the kind of challenges that they faced will suggest that the job of running this country may not be as easy as he thinks, right? So, but the unfortunate thing is that as it stands now, we don't even know what cabinet he's going to be allocated to. So we'll know whether his previous experience would come to bear on his ability to perform.
Let's play a little guessing game. For example, the uncommon governor, former senator, it would be called a Mr. Projects, to take the Wike name and give to him. Do you think that maybe he would do better as a works minister? Maybe he might be into projects.
Yes, if you look at how governance and government is structured in this part of the world, most of the brain work as far as assignments to ministry is concerned has to do with the, let me use the common word in Nigeria, technocrats in the ministry. The engineers, the architects. The minister is expected to just provide like the umbrella that will stand as the link between the ministry and the government. So as a matter of fact, it's not really the field of study. At least if we are talking about, according to history, the best minister of finance that Nigeria has ever produced happened to be Babafemi Awolowo. The man studied law, but he managed Nigeria's economy during 3 years of war that Nigeria did not even borrow one kobo. We even had in excess after the war that some of the people who were coming back from the war were given, though they said it was too small, 20 pounds to go and start your life again. So, but you see, governance has gone beyond that level. We have to acknowledge the fact. But I won't be surprised if the uncommon minister, so to speak, is made to replace that man from Cross River, who was the Niger Delta minister. I think, yes, Niger Delta. Yes, Niger Delta minister.
Minister of Niger Delta Affairs.
Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, yes. But that one, the point of appointing ministers allocating portfolios to them, it is purely the prerogative of the president. The Constitution is very, very clear. If he decides to make you today the Minister of Finance, there's nothing we can do. What we can only do is at the end of the 4 years, what is going to be the result? Because like Section 5 is very clear. All powers that the president, executive powers belong to the president. He can implement this indirectly or use anybody. Okay. So he is going to carry the blame, or the blame, whatever happens, the person he appoints. So that's why I said at the beginning that these people have no choice. They must perform because they have only 4 years. There can't be going to be any second term for the president. So, and it is not, they are not sure that the next president is going to retain them. So the only time they have now to write their name in gold that they always say is this 4 years.
I just, back to you, Shegun. If we didn't see any special things happen in the first tenure, a lot of people get very mad at me when I say the first tenure was a test run. And I say that for many reasons, loosely, because there are lots of things that the president didn't get right. You know, it's easier to speculate when you're not in the shoes of the person who's leading until you get in there, then it hits you. But the list has been also criticized to be a list that is settling people, all those who worked for Mr. President. So will there be a need or a sense of urgency to really turn around things or work, like he said, to write your name in gold? Do you see these people, this crop of people, going in that direction? I
mean, so I found it interesting that he used that expression, because is there anyone of our public office holders, you know, who genuinely sets out to write his name in gold and leave a legacy?
Maybe.
It's a question, and the answer is out there for all Nigerians to see. The first answer to that question is where we are today as a country. I mean, is Nigeria El Dorado? Do we have 24/7 uninterrupted power? Do we have? But
can we not point to a few people?
Yeah,
they may not have done so great, but they have done a few
absolutely.
things.
So it's a question, right? And I know that, yes, of course. I mean, no matter how bad, you know, any situation is, there will always be exceptions and examples to point out that will spark hope and say, oh, perhaps. But look, we mustn't fool ourselves. I'm not inspired by this list. I know quite a number of people there that are decent guys. But, you know, on the overall, if you look at the antecedents of a majority of these guys, they've spent their entire working life in and about the corridors of power. And here we are, as a country. You know, we're a grossly underdeveloped country with huge and tremendous amounts of untapped potential, consistently and perennially unfulfilled potential. We are perpetually the sleeping giant of Africa. It's this same people that has led us to this point. So please, why would I look at any one of them and think that at the end of 4 years in 2023, we would have uninterrupted power? Because for me, that's what it is. If you don't have, maybe not uninterrupted, but very steady and stable power supply, we're not going anywhere. If you don't have a functional transportation system led by the rail system that can move masses of people and goods, you know, efficiently, we're not going anywhere. If you don't have a functioning financial system, we're not going anywhere. These guys that are in this cabinet, I'm sorry, have not demonstrated by virtue of their past track record, with a few exceptions, that they have the capacity to deliver these things to us in 4 years. So what will happen? You know, I predicted that this list wasn't going to be radically different. I said it on this show, and you know, I wasn't surprised. So when people were shouting, "Oh, is this what we've been waiting for 2 months?" Why were you expecting anything more?
But you see, with the inclusion of, and I'm trying to make, not necessarily, yeah, I'm playing the devil's advocate.
Yep.
For the case of the new young blood, let's use young there loosely, because Okechukwu is not so young.
There's only one young person on that list.
But he's new to the system. Do we see people like that, you know, somewhat trying to channel what they were doing in the private sector on the public sector? Again, we hear that the civil service in itself can also be a problem because these guys just come and go. So there is also a rot in the system. Can they really deal with that rot in 4 years? Because that's a bigger question.
The process of dealing with the rot has started.
Has it?
Yes, it has started. You only have to move closer to people in ministry now. They will tell you that things have changed. Has
Servicom come back? Because it died.
It is not in the name. It is in the implementation.
But it serves as the police.
Let me tell you something today. I operate in the maritime industry. Before I left office for this place, I was having an interaction with a customs officer who told me his plight in the past 4 years. Things have changed. It would be uncharitable, unfair to say these people have not done anything. I operate in the maritime industry. That is why I won't be surprised if Amechi comes back to the Ministry of Transport, because that one falls under his portfolio. And I know the feelings in that industry. As a matter of fact, just last Saturday, there's a body of maritime operators. They call themselves Maritime Team. I don't know if it is just a mere coincidence, but just last Saturday, at this Eco Meridian, there was a special reception for Amechi to thank him, because there was the feelings, especially in the past 2 weeks, that he won't come back into the cabinet, to express appreciation to him for what he has brought into the industry. Again, in the area of railway, if you know what has happened in these first 4 years, just like I think it was the governor of Anambra State that was saying something about bridge. He was talking about the Niger bridge that has become feasible. He said, well, that he appreciates the president, that for the first time, the so-called second Niger bridge is now feasible. That it's like when you are constructing the bridge, if you know the amount of work that goes into under the water, it's only when the bridge comes out you will say, oh, something has been done.
So you're saying that it has started, the dealing with the rot has started?
I was just telling you the experience of a customs officer.
But that's one ministry. Again, every time we talk about what this government has done, half the time everybody points to an Amechi, because hey, we have the rail, and you know. If
you know what has gone into that industry.
But of course, that's just one aspect.
The same thing applies to the same thing applies to power. Well, you see, the rot in the decay in the power structure, power industry, is that apart from what you see, the light you see, there are other things that take this thing from the point of generation to where you can see light. Even when you are generating 7,000. So let us assume you are generating 7,000, but you only have capacity to transmit 4,000. You are wasting 3,000 every day.
Of course,
and you don't do all these things within 4 years. These are things that we would have been doing. Let me give you an instance. There was a time, just about a year ago, electricity components that were imported into Nigeria about 12 years ago were rotting at the ports. And Nigeria is contracting that we don't have electricity. It was only about a year ago that the government gave them order that they must clear those things. 12 years. Components of electricity imported into Nigeria with Nigeria's money were rotting at the ports.
But is that not reflective of a failing system? Absolutely. Because one way or the other, all the buck stops at the table of Mr. President and those who work with him. So whether it is at the ports, whether it's at the airport, it represents a failing of a system. But we don't have time, so I'm going to quickly come back to you, Segun. Yeah. Going forward, with all of these promises, at the start of every administration or every tenure, we get to hear promises. Promises are being made, and Nigerians hold on to those promises tightly. These days, thank God for social media, because the internet never forgets, and then we dig them up after 4 years. Let's just throw away the body language that we always say. Let's forget about Mr. President's body language, but let's look at the soldiers, the foot soldiers, who are these people who are going to be elected, sworn in as ministers. Going forward, what should we expect, other than what Akpabio is saying?
I think beyond anything else, again, coming from some of the things he just said, because, I mean, it'll be unfair, like he said, to posit that nothing good happened in the last 4 years. One of the biggest problems, and I've always said this as well, that this administration has had in the last 4 years, in fact, probably the biggest failing is their communication management, right? So I was listening to the screening you know, yesterday and today. And I just kept thinking to myself, how difficult would it be to have a ministerial briefing either every month or every quarter from all ministries for journalists and the public to know what is happening, so you can carry us along and keep hope alive. A population and a citizenry without hope, lying in despair, is a ticking time bomb. So if I were these guys, one of the things I'll be saying to them is, talk to us more. Nigerians need to hear from you, what you're doing. Now, I know that if you ask me, in that last cabinet, there were 2 examples that I think did well enough, given the problems. Amici Fashola, before the Minister of Finance had to resign, she was also a shining star. You know, aside from them, I know that a couple of other guys were doing some nice things, but we never heard about it. So everybody's left feeling despondent, because what you can relate with is what you're seeing today in front of you in your house, on the roads. Now, you don't know that there are fundamental changes happening, because how can you know? Nobody's telling you. Now, if I don't know, I lose hope, I stop cooperating with you as a government, I don't pay my taxes, and I sabotage you.
Should Mr. President change his handlers, his information? I'm talking about Garba Shehu.
I mean, it is not even the Garba Shehu.
It's not Garba Shehu, actually.
Mr. President change his handlers?
It's the Ministry of Information.
I expected the president as early as 2016. Because, you know, the problem the president made right from the beginning, the mistake he made, was that he felt, maybe he didn't know there's a difference between the mouthpiece of a political party in opposition and the mouthpiece of the government. Without impugning on his integrity, his capability, Alhaji Ila Mohammed is a fantastic lawyer, but he did not fit into that ministry appropriately.
Bearing in mind that we've had very fantastic information commissioners, ministers rather, very interesting guys under the Obasanjo administration, and some under the Jonathan first tenure. I mean, we've had interesting guys. So yeah, thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of this segment. They're not going anywhere. We've been talking with Segun Shopita and Dikpo Olayoku. We'll be back after this break, and when we return, we'll be talking about the latest abductees by Boko Haram and a video that recently surfaced. Stay with us.